Alright, sorry about the crappy audio. This is just a quick little update as to what I'm doing right now. Yes, I am working on a flashlight video, and of course it's got much better audio than this, but, you know, I get it. I don't do professional quality audio work on YouTube. That's not really my priority, but I do believe in getting decent quality audio, and of course this doesn't quite meet those standards, but this is just a quick update video. So I got, well, actually 3 units. 2 of them are the same. The other one's a wildly different thing for an older analog format called High 8, which most of you've probably never even heard of. It's like a really itty-bitty video cassette. That's really what it is. But we're not talking about that one today. We're talking about these. I wanted to show you what cheap electronics look like. So, of course, they're made out of plastic, although this one does have a nice kind of powder-coated steel look. Got one of my weirdest lights ever. This is an inspection beam. But there's a few problems with cheap electronics, not just the build quality, but the components inside, the capacitors, they just don't last for decades and decades like higher-end stuff does. The other thing is, when they do eventually go, especially now, but even then, when this was built in, oddly enough, 2002, I'm actually amazed this thing lasted that long, but they're not designed to be easily user serviceable. They're kind of a pain in the ass to work on, and this one's a fine example. So you're like, you know, what do you mean? You opened it up, it's all open, so how is it hard to service? Well, let me show you. If you look inside there, if the stupid camera focuses, that is. Of course, can't really, you could kind of make it out. You could barely see the tops of some of the components. That's because they're buried in glue. They actually put glue on the inside of these, on the circuit board. They just coated the whole thing. Maybe I could shine it through the vents and that'll be a little better. No, I see that's not going to work. And of course, the stupid phone is overexposing everything in the extreme, like the inferior piece of crap that it is. But, oh, you can kind of see it a little better now anyway. It's much worse in person, but you could barely see the top of that tiny little capacitor there, or not capacitor, that little resistor. But yeah, it's all buried in glue. So if you needed to replace one of those components, good luck, because you have all that glue on them. The other thing is the way it's organized, and it's not labeled like high-end stuff, and it's also not like in its own little section. You see, these are the speaker outputs. Now, these are not line-level outputs. These are actually hooked directly up to the amplifier to plug the speakers into them. But you would think that this is going to an amplifier board where they're just kind of all together, kind of like this. You see how they're kind of close like that? You think that that's how they did it. Well, no, because that'd make it too easy. So you go all the way over here. Let me take this out a little bit for you. Now, one of the speakers is going in there, but the other one is on the complete opposite side, and it's actually going through whatever this is, this funny little bracket, and it's weaving in between all sorts of random stuff. But then when you open it up, here's the other one. This is a better example of this. You can't just like pull it all apart because everything is kind of like connected to itself. Everything's hooked up to everything else. So this is hooked up to this is hooked up to that, that's hooked up to this. It's kind of like pulling an animal apart. All the guts are holding it together. So you have all this stuff. Oh, here we go. There's that glue. See, they did it on this one too. It's not like they accidentally spilled. That was intentional. Of course, my stupid piece of crap phone isn't really showing that. I should have used manual settings, but I made the bad decision for once today and used the auto mode. The first time I use auto mode, and it's disgusting. It really is. Auto mode is so stupid, but you have all this... Jesus, stupid phone. There we go. Well, it's not as... No, actually, no, it blends in with the circuit board. It's not as bad as the other, but you could see that, yeah, it's nowhere near as bad as the other, actually, but there is a lot of glue poured all over that. And then you have a hot glue going on. Now, when you put a plug, the whole idea, look at that capacitor, oh my goodness. When you put a plug in something, the whole idea is you don't need to solder it or anything, you could unplug it if you needed to. Well, not here, because they poured all that hot glue over it. And they really do like hot glue. It's an ongoing theme. Let's look at this heatsink. They put what appears to be a ground wire or something that's like soldered to the heatsink. Really bizarre. Never seen that one before. And then they have a block of foam underneath the transformer here. Ooh, right on the walls. It got like that funny block of black foam underneath the transformer. And then they have a lot of heat sinks to things that I don't even really think would need a heat sink to begin with, but who knows, maybe they just use really, really hot electronics. Oh, it must be. Well, no, they protected this from the fuse. I give them credit for that. But yeah, and then there's unused stuff on the circuit board. I've looked at this board. Oh, here's an example that I just randomly stumbled across. There would have been a plug there, they never put it in. That might have been for another model, they just never end up using it. They're just using whatever boards and parts they have. But look, this, holy crap. So the bottom of this wire is going to the bottom of this circuit board. And it's like hooked up to the heat sink of the bottom of this circuit board. But then all these are like tangled together. And it's just one big mess. So you have components that are designed to like go out within a certain amount of time. They're kind of lesser quality capacitors, and well, you could tell by look at this thing. It almost looks like it caught on fire. It's like rust and like a really, oh yeah, look at that. That's glorious. You don't have that with like a Nichicon capacitor, or at least not a genuine Nichicon capacitor. But there's different capacitors like that. It's not just that one. A lot of them went. So this one I think is a lost cause. But I don't know. You know, he does have a more serious setup for critical music listening. This was just something he used for background music when he was doing stuff around the house. So he says he was going to throw it out anyway. If I could fix it, great. If not, it's no big deal, because he was going to pitch it. But he was like, oh, you know what? Eric's kind of good at fixing stuff, so maybe he'll be able to do something with it. And at the very least, he'll have fun doing it. And it has been kind of entertaining seeing what they've done on the inside of these units. This one came apart a little nicer than that one, because I was able to kind of keep these two pieces together. But, oh my goodness, the amount of glue in there, I'm never going to be able to tinker with that. But the good thing is with this one, unlike this one where it's stuck on party mode all the time, because it is permanently stuck on full volume, which is really weird. The volume controls do not work. Nothing's unplugged, but as we saw there, some of the capacitors went out, and I can't believe that's the only thing that went out. Something else in there must have gone too. These, of course, use electronic switches, or E-switches, as some people call them. So basically, they rely on code in order to function. If the code is not there, the buttons don't do anything. That's a quick summary of it anyway. We're not going to go through the science behind it and how those switches actually physically function, but this one looks easier. It looks like with this one we lucked out, although I don't know how long these capacitors will hold up. I don't think he's going to get another 20 years out of it. I'm actually amazed it lasted as long as it did, but the one and only plug that they didn't put hot glue on somehow unplugged itself. Now, why one speaker goes here and the other one goes way over here, I don't know. But yeah, I just need to find out how to plug it back in, but it's like so crammed together. I mean, look at that thing. Of course, it's going to be kind of hard to show this. This is the worst camera work I've ever done in this channel by far. This stupid camera's not helping. Goodness, autofocus and auto mode in general, it's just inferior. Why did I do this? Why did I decide to even use auto mode? But you get it, it's all crammed in there. So there it is. There's the update. I'll probably send him an email today once I get this one fixed. he said that he'll be more than happy if even one of these is somehow functioning. He thinks that the other unit over there is kind of a lost cause. I can't show it because I got my mail there too, but it's a big high 8 machine, which is like a small video cassette for those of you that don't know what high 8 is. It's long gone now, but actually a really nice unit. Mint condition, really heavy. He bought the nicer model on that one. This was not the entry-level model or the budget special, but these definitely were. Although GPX never really made anything high-end, but they're, you know, when I was really little, my first boombox, they called it a boombox. It's really not a boombox, it's a tiny radio, but it was from GPX. It was perfectly okay. It wasn't amazing, but heck, for my first little system, it wasn't bad. Of course, I've moved far beyond that now, but yeah, it's an interesting one. So this one looks like it's fixable, assuming that's the only problem. That's the thing. You just never know with stuff like this. It's like a ticking time bomb. All of these capacitors, which have far exceeded their rated lifespan, but I need to somehow plug that in, and then I think this one will work. I might need to replace the belt for this thing. Oh, that reminds me, another funny thing happened here. The last thing, I promise. You have this random metal peg, or it's a plastic peg with a metal thing on it. And that one little thing holds up a tiny circuit board with the nitty-bitty button in the, you know, generally the right area, so that when the door opens all the way, it hits that button and it tells it to stop the motor. But I thought it was kind of funny. They just kind of like stuck it there like that. It's just kind of bizarre. And of course, the wire is kind of going along here and is inevitably gonna end up in that. That's a mess. I open these up like, how does such a tiny little radio that only has it's a radio and a CD player? There's no aux input, no line input, no Bluetooth, nothing. Just a radio and a CD player. How does it have all that stuff going on? I mean, a portable radio and CD player has nowhere near that, but it's like they decided to use cables and stuff, and like whatever they had laying around, they had that random magnet on there. I never understood why they did that. Because I've removed magnets like that before, and it hasn't really done anything, so I don't know. But I'll keep them on there. I mean, they're there, so I might as well leave them. Look, you got that one. It's like all tied up. It's just a mess. You pull this thing, and it pulls everything else with it. But yeah, that's all for this one. I'll see you next time in a much nicer video than this, but hopefully you got some kind of entertainment out of this one.